Welcome to the Wealth Done Differently Retirement Podcast. Danielle Howard, a certified financial planner, shares insight into the financial tools, techniques, and temperaments needed to make the most of your retirement dollars and relationships. Danielle bridges the gap between Wall Street and Main Street, bringing complex financial topics down to earth. Danielle will educate and inspire you as you define and refine your version of prosperity.
Hello and welcome to Wealth Done Differently Retirement with Danielle Howard, a certified financial planner. Today's podcast is titled Finding Motivation in Your Fall Season. Good morning, Danielle. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Eric. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. And we're not in fall yet, but we know it's coming. Right?
We are in full summer,
stops.
in the full throes of summer and enjoying it thoroughly.
Absolutely. And we just know that it's kind of been proven since time began that fall will get here eventually. And that's for everyone.
Yes.
Right. So now this is finding motivation in that fall season. And what are we talking about today?
Well, what three topics do people stay away from like the plague?
The big three. That would be religion, politics, and butter versus margarine. That's for me.
Okay, those are the three for you. All right, for me, politics, sex, religion, and money. I guess there's four.
Oh,
so
four,
we can take a look at four taboo topics. And since my wheelhouse is around the money issues, I thought we would dig into that and look at why money is so hard to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think that'd be great. Let's get on it.
It's challenging. And I think a lot of it revolves around our motivation in looking at money and managing money and talking about money. And the world throws out, what we should be looking at with money. And I think that is where we hit walls with motivation. Have you ever thought about it that way?
Well, yeah, because honestly, if you're not willing to talk about something, how can you possibly make changes? Or if you feel that you can't talk about something, I suppose is the way I should say that. Like you said, you avoid the money topic. It doesn't help you face it head on or get motivated to do anything about it.
Right. So in looking at what motivates us to even talk about it, when we're motivated by external circumstances or external what the media is saying or what our lives should look like. And the difference, we want to dig in today, the difference between extrinsic and intrinsic motivators, whether it's talking about money, whether it's making decisions around money. And I think that, we've got to make a shift in looking at what motivates us, as we look at how to optimize our financial possibilities in this fall season of life.
All right. Sounds good.
But first, we get to have our fun disclosure that I appreciate everybody listening. And I hope you're sharing some of the information that you're gleaning off of these podcasts with friends and family, and that you're personally gleaning some insight about this new season that we call rewirement. These podcasts are going to be digging into different financial technical pieces, and we're going to dig in, like today, on quality of life in this season of retirement. And I just want to make sure that you don't take any of this personally, that your financial life is so unique, your situations are unique, you are personally unique, that you need to make sure you have an advisor that is getting to know you, that understands who you are and what is going on. And, you need to have the context around any decisions that you're going to make. So I just want to encourage people to make sure that you're working with the right folks, learn something from me, and then bring it to fruition with somebody who can truly guide you.
Yeah, absolutely. Find a professional to talk to and ask the questions that come up today as you listen to this podcast.
Perfect. So let's dive in.
All right.
As we look at motivation, that is the process that initiates and guides and maintain our behaviors. To me, it is the why. When it comes to money in our fall season of life, many times it's just left on autopilot or it's in default mode. You just, money is just a part of our life. We don't give it much thought. It just comes and goes. And if we do think about it, it's usually in a negative context.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we need to look at our whys. Why do we want to have money in our fall season of life? And why do we want to understand the financial tools that you have? We have to look at what is motivating us to look at our behavior. Make sense?
Absolutely.
I believe, my personal feeling is that we are encouraged by the media and the financial services industry to look at money externally, outside of ourselves, that there's a carrot and stick mentality, that we are encouraged to have money motivators about, we just want, how do we get more money? Or how do we post the latest and greatest things on Facebook to make our lives look fantastic? That we're avoiding punishment, avoiding running out of money, or what are we avoiding in our financial lives? It's basically the financial services industry, the media coming at us saying, this is what your retirement should look like, or this is what you need to do. You need to beat the benchmarks. You need to have more. You need to build bigger buckets. You need to have bigger barns. And you need to have the latest and greatest, and you're not enough unless you have this. And it is that externalities that is really creating a lot of discontent and a lot of disconnection and a lot of angst around your financial life. So we want to shift that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think it's because we have a tendency to compare ourselves to somebody else, or to, like you said, there's a certain benchmark that you should be hitting. I kind of imagine it or liken it to being at a dinner party, standing around a group of people, and one is talking about, well, they're a doctor, and the next person's a lawyer, and the next person's a judge in the Supreme Court, the next person's, some wealthy businessman, and then they get to you and you're saying, well, I work in a warehouse, right? So you don't feel good about that. You don't feel like you have hit that mark that all these other people are doing. And the media just constantly, like you said, is dumping stuff on us saying, hey, this is what you should be reaching for, even though that's not any part of your goal or your dream.
Right. It's, again, allowing our net worth to be our identity instead of our self-worth, and getting the two mixed up. And I think that it is an awareness and of what has happened in our culture, that we've really moved away from our true values, our true identity, what our personal meaning of success is, and we've let others influence us. How do we change that? And because when it comes to money, if we're not motivated by intrinsic, what comes from inside of us, to take a look at our why behind our behaviors from an intrinsic perspective, it's really, really different. That we're going to engage in financial behaviors, whether it's saving or spending or giving or growing, because it aligns with personally with you. It is about your integrity, about your authenticity, about knowing yourself and those closest to you. What brings you personal gratification? What brings you that opportunity or to explore or fulfill your potential? What makes you happy? If you really connect with those intrinsic motivators, you're more likely to follow through with your financial behaviors.
True. Very true.
So
how do we make that shift?
Yeah. So as we unpack this a little bit, I think there are some areas that we can look at, and let's take a look at 4 of them.
Okay.
Let's look at the intrinsic element of challenge, being challenged. So pursuing a goal with personal meaning, that it's possible, but not necessarily absolutely for sure that you're going to reach it. So there is that element of of challenge behind it. And it's related to your self-esteem. And if progress or performance feedback is available, that's fantastic. There is that little element of maybe comparison with others. I look at this from the perspective of staying physically fit and making healthy choices as I personally, as I age. I can look around me, and we all do, and we see people aging in different ways. Well, I like a little bit of a challenge, and I get that I'm not skiing at the same capabilities that I used to when I was a lot younger. I'm not climbing this high of a mountain, or I'm not biking as far as I used to. But I think I still can be challenged in what is my personal best. Financially, it isn't having more. It's about using it wisely to possibly look at, how do I want to use financial resources to support me in staying physically fit and making healthy choices? What am I going to spend at for a gym membership? Or what do I want for how much is enough on a new bicycle? Or what kind of food do we want to be putting into my basket? So taking a look at what kind of challenges do you have in your life, and what are the financial implications in, taking on those challenges.
Got it. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. What would number 2 be?
Another one would be curiosity. So an intrinsic motivator could be aligned with, curiosity, to look at something in our, physical environment that grabs our attention. That might be sensory curiosity. That might be travel. I'm curious about what another part of the world looks like. It may be activities that stimulate your cognitive curiosity. So learning opportunities, going back to school to, learn a new language, or to take a hobby that you kind of pursued, but take it to a deeper level. When I look at the intrinsic motivator with curiosity, I call it intentional travel. I'll have clients say, well, I want to travel in retirement. Well, fantastic. But what would it look like to peel that? What about travel intrigues you? What element of travel do you want to really explore? And do you want to dig into a culture or the food, or do you want to just see the scenery? So what element of curiosity is going to unfold, and what are the financial implications of cultivating that curiosity?
Yeah, I mean, there could be both ends of the spectrum. Like you said, I want to go see what other cultures are like, where another person is like, I love to just hit the road and see what's around just the United States. I haven't done a whole lot of traveling here. So those are two totally different situations. One may be buying a full RV and being gone for 6 months at a time, where somebody else is taking short trips, but more cost because of hotels or planes or whatever.
Everybody is going to be different. And this is where people need to know themselves and kind of tap into what is truly important to them. And I think that's important for any financial advisor that is out there working with a client, is to help them uncover what that curiosity is about, and why. Because you could, factor in a number for travel every year, but it's not going to be fulfilling if it's just, surface. But if it really is about who you are, what you're about, what's going to fulfill that curiosity in your life, then an advisor is going to really help you hone into the financial elements of that, and keep it sustainable for a period of time, in those go years, to be able to really, none of us, at least the majority of us, do not have that just unending flow of financial resources where you can go everywhere and do everything. And we really want to make sure that the travel or the learning opportunities that we're taking on to, fulfill that element of curiosity in our lives is meaningful and does fill us up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it may be a situation where you plan on traveling the world and then you take 3 or 4 trips and you're like, you know what? There's no place like home.
Exactly.
I've satisfied that curiosity, right? So,
Right.
okay. Yeah. So that's curiosity.
Next one would be control. And we've talked about this one a little bit in a previous podcast. I think it's number 14, as we look at self-determination. We all want to be as much in control of our own lives as possible. And we have, I get it. There are so many things coming at us in so many different directions. They're outside of our control, but there are elements within our environments and the direction of our lives that we can control. So if you want to dig into that a little bit deeper, take a listen to the podcast number 14. But this is where we, to the best extent possible, we are in control of our lives. And it's a mindset and an attitude that we are victims instead of victims of circumstance, that we take personal responsibility for our behaviors. So this is where, this is where a spending plan would come into play. We want to know where our money is going and tell it where it's going instead of wondering where it went. We want to know what is working and what is not, and that we have the capacity to make changes where we want to, whether it's with our financial decisions, our dietary desires, our relationships. There are opportunities to grow and change. And if we take responsibility in all areas of our life, that will unfold. It also, having control, that it exhibits, determination, self-motivation, and being driven by our own values instead of other standards and circumstances outside of ourselves. And this, again, is where we really need to question what is coming at us with the media, with what others say we should be doing, and wrestle with what it means to be in charge of ourselves. And that we, our actions are based on our values and our moral standards. Well, in order for us to do that, we have to know what our values and moral standards are. What are they based on? Where did they come from? Are they working or not working? And this can get into, spiritual elements. And I think, again, people have gotten so far away and disconnected and so focused on external forces, and they'd rather place blame and look at what's going on outside of them and spend time there, and it's not overly productive.
Yeah, I love what you said. You are controlled by your values, not controlled by those external things, and I think that's fantastic. I think everybody hopes to strive for that, but this actually kind of puts some steps in place to help you do that. I love it.
Right. Next, let's look at cooperation. So we've had challenge, curiosity, control, and cooperation. And from the intrinsic idea of cooperation, that people want to know that they are impacting others in a beneficial way, that there is something bigger than themselves that they're working on, that there are people in our lives that we can walk alongside for a common goal, or that we're in alignment with common values. And this is where I really see, couples needing to come together in making financial decisions. Our world, again, can tend to pull us apart in this area. And, I have the things that I want to do with my money. You have things you want to do with your money. And could we look at it differently? And how can we cooperate? How could we collaborate? How could we have money draw us together instead of pulling us apart? And that will, again, embellish the intrinsic motivation. If we can connect with, whether it's a spouse, a partner, other family members, on commonalities, on values, on common goals, then we're aligning ourselves with, those intrinsic motivators that help us come to fruition through financial implications and behaviors that we make with our money.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
So, just to review, we've got that external motivation, and those are the should do's. That's the traditional financial advisor coming at you and going, well, you should be saving more for retirement. You should be spending less. You should be doing this, that, or the other. And it puts you in that position of pressure. You feel guilty that you're never going to be able to get there, that you can't keep up, that you're burdened. It fills you with regret. Well, I should have done it, 20 years ago, and now it's too late. Or resentful, that either resentful of yourself or resentful of people who are telling you to do this. And, it's just not a pretty place to be. And I think that we can replace it with the intrinsic motivators. And that puts us more in that I choose to make decisions around my financial life that reflects that curiosity in my life, that gives me a little bit of a challenge, that helps put me in a position of control, that self-determination, that I can make decisions and that I can take responsibility and that I can, move forward in making change in my life, and that I can look at collaborating or cooperating with people that are important to me or who bring value to my life. And it puts you in a position of power and possibility and helps you, fulfill your potential. And it's an entirely different mindset around how you do your money. Entirely different behaviors in your financial choices, whether it's in how you're receiving it, how you're sharing it and giving it, or how you're growing it, or making intentional spending decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
A great read is Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us by Danielle Pink. Very engaging and some fantastic ideas. Again, what motivates employees, but I think it factors over into our personal life also. So check that out.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And we were talking a little bit before the podcast that you actually have a story of your own about motivation. So it's a good transition point there. Get the book and now listen to Danielle's story. What have you got?
Well, this is I always, I live in the beautiful Colorado Rocky Mountains, and I always try to tie, the analogies between our financial lives and what I get to live in up here. And a couple weeks ago, my husband and I wanted to go on a bike ride, and we've been having a lot of wet weather up here this year, and we had this brief 3-hour window. Checked the weather app and saw that we had a quick 2 to 3 hour window with only 25% chance of rain. And because we hadn't gotten out too much, we thought, oh, let's go. I was motivated by, let's go get some exercise, some time with my husband. And I'm very motivated by a restaurant at the end of a bike ride. We happened to have a fair in town called Strawberry Days in Glenwood Springs. And that would be fun. Let's go on the bike ride up the canyon, and then we'll stop at Strawberry Days, grab some good food, get some exercise. Let's go. Geared up, headed out. Got up into the canyon along the Colorado River, just absolutely gorgeous ride, thoroughly enjoying our day, and see some clouds building in the sky. Well, I was initially motivated by the intrinsic motivators that we talked about a little bit before, the challenge, the curiosity, and the control. I get to go out and enjoy the day. Cooperation, sure. I get to do something that binds me together with my husband. Get up into the canyon, cloud builds, and we get a little wet. It was refreshing. Get to a point where we can't go any further because we've got so much water coming through our rivers right now that we have part of the bike path is closed. Turn around, start heading back, see some really big dark clouds heading towards us. And, going, okay, we can either ride really fast, and we can literally see the sheets of rain that are coming towards us. Think, okay, we could turn around, bike back to the rest area, hang out there, or we could just, I saw blue sky on the other side of it. Let's just get wet. So we rode through that, but it was coming down really, really hard, and it was hurting to ride.
Oh, man.
pulled over, pulled up under the underpass, got our bikes all muddy, and let the storm pass. Took about 4 or 5 minutes to let it completely go by. Wash our bikes off, wash the shoes off in some puddles, and get back on our bikes. Strip off a layer of clothing that was, wet, and head into town. Still motivated. I've still got, we've got food ahead of us. I'm really excited. And get into town and check the app again. And now we're up to a 40% chance of rain in the next half hour. And looking down valley, there was a black cloud that made what we had just ridden through pale. And my motivation completely changed. I was no longer motivated to enjoy the day, to get some exercise, to spend time with my husband, and to have good food. I was motivated to get home before I was so wet, so cold, and miserable. And we decided just to go. So my motivation shifted quite a bit. It was no longer about being motivated by something that was enjoyable in life to being motivated to avoid pain. And we rode fast. We rode hard. I could barely keep up with my husband. We pulled into the driveway about 2 minutes before the hail started and didn't stop for about 40 minutes. And wow. I was so grateful to be at home and warm and safe. And as we were riding really fast, I'm like, all right, let's think about what motivates people, especially in their financial lives. They can be motivated by, doing something fun and enjoying life. Or we can be motivated by avoiding pain.
Absolutely.
And that plays into it too. So I want to encourage our listeners to look at motivation and how it plays out in your financial decisions. That don't just set it and forget it. Don't just set money on autopilot and let life happen to you. Take a look at what's important to you, and what is going to motivate you to take a look at the tools, the financial tools that you have, the techniques that you're utilizing to, optimize all of these resources that you've built up over the years and are wanting now to use in your retirement season. Or are there, techniques that you can be creative around tax efficiencies and continuing to build up or taking money out for those joyful times or those painful transitions or whatever's going on. And it was just kind of a fun, way for me to think about motivation from either that positive side or avoiding pain.
So if somebody is listening to this right now that says, you know what, I'm motivated to avoid financial pain in the future, or they're saying I'm motivated to find a great pathway to live by my values and be controlled by my values instead of somebody else's, what's their next step? How do they reach out to you?
I'm so glad you asked. Thank you. You can reach out to us and take a look at what a personalized journey of financial health would look like. And you can reach us at www.wealthbydesign4u.com. We have a new Social Security handbook that you can download on that same website, www.wealthbydesign4u.com. It's a really good Social Security piece that kind of outlines when to look for, very professionally done. You can also look at engaging in group learning opportunities, having me come speak, or we've got some educational online activities you can partake in at www.daniellehoward4u.com. And I appreciate feedback or comments about what you would like to hear more about or topics that would be of interest to you. Please feel free to email us at admin@wbd4u.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Appreciate your time, Eric, and we will talk soon.
Yeah, love it. All right. And thank you all for listening to the Wealth Done Differently Retirement Podcast with Danielle Howard. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Danielle comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. It makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at Wealth Done Differently Retirement, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Wealth Done Differently Retirement Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Wealth by Design, LLC. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Danielle Howard, Certified Financial Planner, is an investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Cambridge and Wealth by Design, LLC are not affiliated.